I'm so sorry not to be with you at your 10th Capital Markets Summit and to have the chance to talk to you about the work we're doing to improve the environment for business and build a single market for capital in Europe. This work lies at the heart of the European Commission's push to boost growth and jobs. Bigger markets, more competition, more trade, that's our agenda. We want a Europe that's open to business and that's open to investment, trading with the rest of the world. The United States and the EU already have a strong trade and investment relationship. Together, our markets make up 50% of global GDP. We're each other's first source of and destination for foreign direct investment. Flows of capital across the Atlantic continue to grow. I believe that this relationship can be driven further in both directions. That's why, for example, I was determined to reach an agreement and grant equivalence to the United States regime governing central counterparty clearinghouses. This agreement will be put into place over the coming months and will ensure that both EU and US CCPs operate to the same high standards. Now we need to press on with negotiations on the transatlantic trade and investment partnership, including in the financial services sector. Financial services are important on both sides of the Atlantic. In the US, they account for 7% of GDP and some 6 million jobs. In Europe, it's 5% of GDP, and banks alone provide 3 million jobs. That's why industry wants an ambitious, comprehensive and high-standard trade and investment agreement. They see great potential, and so do I. Potential to create jobs and to support investment in the wider economy. In Europe, we also know that to continue to attract investment, we need to be somewhere where it's simple to do business. A single market that's growing, that's dynamic, that gives you bang for your buck. And that's why we're driving forward work to build a single market for capital, what we're calling a Capital Markets Union. I guess we're all familiar with the analysis. America's equity markets are twice the size of the EU's, although our economy is about the same size. US SMEs get about 5 times as much funding from capital markets as they do in Europe. Your venture capital markets are 5 times bigger than ours. So there's great scope for Europe's financial markets to expand. Our goal is simple. It's to help money flow through the EU to where it's most productive, to connect savings more effectively to growth, to channel investment to projects which need financing, to give companies a greater choice of funding, and to increase the options for people saving for the long term. As part of this work, we've acted to support longer-term investment in infrastructure. We're taking forward a proposal to revive securitization markets so that we can free up bank lending to the wider economy. And we're working on measures to encourage venture capital. We're also reviewing the legislation that was put in place to respond to the financial crisis. The basic regulatory architecture we created is not in question. That's legislation that made our financial sector stronger and more resilient. But when you're firefighting at speed and under stress, you can't expect to get everything completely right, or to predict exactly how rules are going to interact. So that's why we're checking to see whether everything is working as we'd hoped. We had a call for evidence to find out what the industry thought. That has just ended, and we're now working through the hundreds of responses we've received. 3 clear themes are emerging. Respondents have said that in places our legislation is not proportionate enough, that it could be weighing down on the amount of financing available to the wider economy, and that the compliance burden is too high. Having completed our analysis, I plan to set out our thinking on how we'll take things forward this summer. Building a capital markets union will not happen overnight. It'll require sustained effort over many years. But I do think that in Europe we now have an opportunity to change, to unlock the full potential of that single market. That makes sense for competition, for jobs and for growth in Europe. But it also makes sense for businesses in the US who want to come to Europe to invest here. I hope your conference is a great success, and I hope that we can work together to strengthen the contribution that capital markets can make to both our economies.